Okay, so thank you for joining us on our daily support call. Courage19 is the hashtag, as well as global community. Really do appreciate the people that have been dropping in, dropping out, commenting on Facebook, commenting on YouTube. We are doing this because it's a way of serving you. It's a way of all of us coming together, seeing different points of view as we continue to go through some pretty dramatic changes in this world right now. Today, we've got a very special guest to me. She is the co-founder of the Toronto area DivaGirl. Her name's Caryn Parchment. We've known each other a few years now, become some pretty good friends. Why I chose to ask her to join us today is because she has built a thriving community in the Greater Toronto area. And I'm really curious, as someone who has built a smaller community at this point, but quickly growing, curious to see how is everything going on with, COVID-19 and self-isolation, and now even just this morning we see the list of essential and non-essential businesses, so a lot of stuff is closing down. Let's talk about community. Let's talk about how it's affecting your community and directly affecting your business, because cash flow is important. How you've been transitioning, right? I'm imagining you may have had an online community beforehand, not sure. And then basically what are the next steps for you and DivaGirl? So let's start there and see where the conversation leads, okay?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you, Marcus, for having me on. And as well, there's many things that have been taken into consideration during this time. I'm going to be completely transparent.
Please.
Actually, we've been an online community for many years with a live component, as I call it. And this actually started in 2016. I traveled to Nepal, beautiful country. And when I came back, unfortunately, I came back with a parasite. And was in self-isolation for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And with that, I figured out tools and methods to take my business online and still be able to connect directly with the members on a day-to-day basis. There was a lot of trial and error, and through that, I figured out a way how myself and my business partner, Laura, we could create an online community that would thrive in today's marketplace.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that's exciting because, yeah, I mean, the idea of work from home, distributed teams, my background in digital marketing for 22 years, we were working remotely, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's very proactive. And in the same way, you developing an online first community, it must have been fascinating over the last few years to watch the tools evolve and see how you could take advantage of that. And then having the live component, now I understand why you recommended that to me not too long ago when we were starting our Limitless Results fellowship communities, because yeah, they are a weekly online meeting, and then once a month we have a live component, as you put it, and we're learning as we go too. And I love that part that you said, test it, see what works, and then iterate. It's not about waiting for it to be perfect or having the tools that are perfect or a structure that's perfect. It's about just getting out there, doing it, getting feedback, and listening to the feedback. So tell me a bit about the evolution then. How have, before we get back to talking about where things are now, how was it then compared to how it is now, and how did you get here?
Well, we had back in 2016, Facebook Lives actually weren't as popular as they were today. So we were using webinar platforms similar to Zoom. Zoom wasn't as popular then as it is now. And with that, we integrated video. So we would record video in a webinar format, and then we would post it to our online page so people could watch it at their own time, because not everybody is online at the same time as you are. And that was one of the big things we had to learn.
Hmm.
because we would host live webinars, we would host different web-based events, and we would have 3 to 5 people as typical. And then we were looking for ways to reach a broader demographic, or to reach out to our community. So that's when we decided to take those webinars and to start to post them online so people could watch them in their own time. So the live is great. You leave the live, like once your live is done, people can watch it at any time, as well as there's also now Instagram. Instagram wasn't as popular, neither was LinkedIn. So there's all these different formats that have come up over time. And throughout the past couple years, we've tried and tested which platform works for us. And that's the number one tip, is that you need to find the platform that works best for you, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's YouTube. There's so many platforms, but you got to figure out which one is the best one for your business.
Well, and that's a really interesting thing, because it's been coming up a lot this week for us. We're seeing a massive surge in business. Everybody wants to understand how to do remote project management, and there's hundreds of tools out there for remote project management. So we get a lot of inquiries, which one's the best one?
Right.
And there are some that absolutely avoid at all costs, but there's no right one. And to that point that you made, it's establishing the criteria that matter to you. So, there are certain things you might need, certain things you might not need. Like, for example, if you're doing online seminars and webinars like this, and you want to be able to charge people for them, well, does your platform provide a payment gateway built in, or do you have to use something external, right? So it's looking at the things that matter to you. I want to dig in there. You were talking about how you started it in a webinar type platform, and how you would put the videos on your webpage so people from other time zones could view it afterwards. Now, is DivaGirl, is that a paid community, like a paid membership community, or is it a free
Yes.
community?
DivaGirl is a paid membership community, and we have 2 different tiers. Well, up until now with COVID-19, we did have 2 tiers. So we had a tier where it was based towards women who loved coming out to our live events. But at the same time, they also got access to our online platform. And then we had a tier directed for women who were business owners or entrepreneurs. And that way we would, like if they were to have a webinar or have an event, we would promote it, or we would link the content to our page so that more people could engage and see it as well. So there's many added benefits with the business package. So that's how we've grown over the years. The biggest thing that we did last year was we had pushed a steady stream of live events, which was very successful. And through that, we really increased our membership. So with that, during this time now, we have brought all of our members online, and we've reached out to them specifically to ask them what they want to do, because we can suggest so many different things, but at the end of the day, if it's not something that they're looking to do, they won't be engaged. So that's another thing with an online platform is customer service. You got to make sure that you are creating content that specifically speaks to your customers. And with that, to always keep them engaged.
Right. And you and I are fortunate. We actually share a common business mentor. It's actually how we met, and that would be Colin Sprake.
Yes.
And one of the key things, and it's so simple and so often overlooked, is start, stop, keep. Right.
Yep.
Start asking your audience what they would like to see you do. Stop doing the things, ask them what they want you to stop doing, and then stop doing it, and ask them what you should keep doing, and keep doing it. And it's such an amazing philosophy. And so often in business, as you know, I'm doing this now for the audience. In business, we're always looking for new leads and new ways of getting more business. And we're always looking out there somewhere instead of just talking to the customers that already love us and asking them for their direction. So I love that you've been doing that in practice. I've been doing that in practice with our team. And yeah, it's the easiest and quickest way to accelerate your growth. Back to the webinar again still. I have more questions. So paid membership, and then you go and put one of the web events up on your web page, open to the public. Did you see any pushback? Like, was there any resentment about, hey, I paid for this, why are you putting it out for free now? What was that like?
No, we did not see anything like that. The number one thing that after they had paid into it, the number one thing we did was with the webinar, we would delete any promos that were attached to that webinar. So the people who paid into that webinar, they would strictly benefit. And then the free was just the knowledge component.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So doing an edit, we do something similar. We do kind of like a highlight reel just to whet the appetite enough that they actually want to come and pay for the full kind of thing. So smart, makes sense. All right. Now that's where you were, and you've got this massive membership that you've grown, and suddenly, like you said, here comes COVID-19, and now the live events, I'm assuming they're paused currently. Is that what your members have wanted?
That is correct. We've actually decided, due to the overload of amount of events that have been postponed to the fall or into next year by other businesses, for the moment, we've decided to, I'm calling it, cancel our 2020 calendar, and then we'll revisit what we are deciding to do for 2021.
Okay. Now, and that's, man, you keep bringing up such interesting points. That's what I love, being able to talk about these types of things with other business owners is, you know, we're running a mentoring program, and it hasn't been brought up yet by any of our clients, because thankfully they're all doing very well, because this is the kind of stuff we talk about. I'm going to go on a little side rant. We talk about the 5 challenges of business, and number 5 in our program is a sustainable business model.
Yes.
And that's risk management at the end of the day. I mean, there's risk management professionals. This is all they do. They get hired and paid a lot of money to go in and see where a company is fragile and then come up with solutions proactively. You know, what if a meteor hits your head office? How long is it going to take you to get up and running? And that's something I had the privilege of doing for the last 7 years of my career in digital marketing, before I started my own business. So, you know, that's what's contributed to us being busy right now, because we are a sustainable business model. And because we teach that, the vast majority of clients in our programs are doing okay. So we haven't had any asks yet for cancellations or pausing of memberships or anything like that. Now, you have just paused the rest of your year. I mean, obviously that could change, but I haven't seen anyone do that yet. I've seen people do 60 days or evaluate month to month, but you're like, nope, we are going to pause the calendar for the rest of the year and see how this goes. What does that mean in terms of membership, like as far as their dues?
Well, we have members who have signed on for the whole year. We have told them not to renew their memberships for 2021. We will be, as I call it, we will be releasing an official statement probably in the summer, once we have a better assessment, to discuss what we will be doing with membership and how it will be handled for the remainder of the year and for years moving forward. So that part, we're looking more on like a month-to-month basis. Okay. And assessing from there. The decision to, as I call it, to cancel the events, it wasn't taken lightly. It was discussed for several weeks, and that's why we just released a statement yesterday.
Okay. believe it or not, I actually admire it because what I've noticed, and it's come up a couple of times this week in these calls, is there's two polarizing reactions to what's going on in the world right now. There's the freak out and hoard toilet paper reaction.
Yep.
And then on the opposite extreme, there's the meh, we'll be back to work in a week or two reaction. And all the experts, including the Health Minister of Canada, say, no, we're looking at months of this, not weeks of this. So for you to say, hey, yeah, we're just, let's figure this out together. But live events, they're done for the year. I mean, that's so bold, and I get that it wouldn't be light. Now, at the same time, though, you're still running your online events, yeah?
We are looking at ways, we're in discussion with our members right now as to what live events we will be hosting and how many we'll be hosting a week. Because at the same time, we want to make sure we maintain a balance so that we're not overwhelming people, because there's so much content online right now, and it, like, every day I see a new session popping up for something else, and it's all great and everything. It's making sure that those sessions, those webinars, those mentoring sessions that everyone is signing up for, that they are definitely providing value to your business. Because if they're not providing value, then it doesn't make sense for you to do it just for fun.
Right.
Also, there's so many different ways that you can contribute your learning online. If you are an expert, let's say in marketing, if you're an expert in branding, if you're an expert in so many different things that can help so many businesses, then those are the people who absolutely should be online right now. And then other people may need to take a pause and just listen. Because the number one thing that I learned when I was in self-isolation a few years ago was, and this is where, yes, everyone is in panic mode or everyone is in meh mode. I'm here.
Right.
And here is where many people need to be. And it's in the middle. You're not meh, you're not in panic. You're in what I call a reflection state.
Okay.
So you are assessing on a day-to-day basis what you may need so that you're not panicking.
Right.
At the same time, it keeps you focused and it keeps you motivated so that you don't reach the meh, I'm just going to throw it all away stage.
Okay, so taking it seriously, but
Yes.
being proactive, and again, you're reinforcing some of the things we've learned together is the just testing things and iterating on it, right? Which you've done in your business. So why wouldn't we do it in our lives when we're in self-isolation?
Yeah.
Right? We can't keep doing what was, because what was clearly got us here and isn't working. So why would we keep doing it now? And I agree with you. I think right in the middle there is where people have some area to play, but it's like, yeah, stop doing how things were, because that's not how things are. And it reinforces the idea that this is not temporary, right? To be sustainable, everyone's got to pivot, not just their businesses, but the way they think about their personal day-to-day lives and how it's going to impact things.
And speaking on a day-to-day life, our online community actually had its own set of hours. So we would start posting content, and we only post content depending on what was going on 3 to 4 times a day. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to do that. I'm saying that's what worked for us. So you need to figure out what works for you, whether it's posting once a day, twice a day, or more than that. And with that, we would make sure that our content was timely. So it would reflect the times that are going on. So right now, we push out quotes of the day, or we post out, stay safe, stay indoors. Here are things you could do. Here's a podcast. Here's something that you could listen to that will reiterate things to keep you motivated and to keep you in this state.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you stay in this state is actually the more way how your business will thrive. And I'm not just saying this for saying this. I'm actually saying this because back when I was in self-isolation in 2016, I started off in the meh stage. And slowly but surely, I moved to this stage.
Right.
And with creating that online community, it helped me to stay motivated every day, but also to develop a routine. And through that routine, by the time I turned around, it was March and I was coming out of self-isolation. Now, also with that, by self-isolation, it didn't mean that I didn't leave the house for 4 months. It just meant I left a lot less.
Of course. Yeah. And that's, I mean, even now we are getting to that point where it's almost martial law and there is going to be fines if you're caught outside. But even prior to that, there was a post going around a lot and it was the traffic lights. Green, this is okay to do. Yellow, be cautious. Red, do not do this.
Right.
So, you know, even when we had to go out, it's still having some common sense and doing what we're supposed to do. You've opened a whole can of worms for me because as a marketer for 22 years, you know, you talked about, like, for example, the traditional model was on a Monday, you know, you're supposed to post something that's purely educational. And then on the Wednesday, you share something personal and deeply connecting. And then Friday is when you ask for the sale. And it was, and again, you would figure out what works for you, how often, what your content is, this whole principle again of test things. Yeah. And that principle still applies, but now in this transition, again, it's interesting. And I'll share some personal statistics too. We typically do follow that 3-a-week model up until this pandemic started. And on average, we are getting maybe a 4% to 5% unsubscribe rate, which is pretty average for our industry of business consulting. And since this started, I remember on day one of this, my inbox exploded with about 400 spam emails, all of them saying COVID-19 or coronavirus in the title. Like everybody was suddenly fear mongering, which is part 2 of what I'll talk about. But what was interesting is I was like, we need to start putting out more content and making it relevant from our point of view. So we started doing the 3 to 7 per day. And I was nervous when I did it at first, because of course we're testing. I was expecting like an 80% unsubscribe rate by day 2. And in fact, we've been doing that for about 2.5 weeks straight now, just plowing content out again and again and again and again. And we're at less than 1% unsubscribe. Because, you know, marketing rule number 1 is make your marketing copy relevant to what's going on in the world, right? And for 6 years, that's been Trump, right? Even though we're in Canada, it's been Trump. If you make your copy about Trump, then people will respond to it in one of those 2 polarizing ways. And suddenly there's something that's taking more attention than he is. And that would be this pandemic. So yeah, we continue to put that out and measure. And if we start to see an increase in drop off, obviously we'll change tactics. So even though all the marketing principles still apply, this really is the Wild West when it comes to hard data, because all the historical data is almost meaningless in some ways now, because people are responding very differently to different ways of doing things. And that brings me to the second half of this point, was marketing rule number 2 is either the lovey-dovey dream come true scenario of doing business with us, or the fear-mongering, your life will be miserable if you don't do business with us. And even though the fear-mongering one is more effective from a strictly analytical point of view, what's been interesting is that I've been impressed with humanity lately. I mean, we've started leveraging social tools, like even meetings like this. We started all coming together and leveraging social tools in the way that I believe they were originally intended for. And there's so much less fear mongering in the communities, and a lot more, you know, what can I do to serve you today? How can we get through this together today? And I really think if there is any business owners watching this today, get away from fear mongering right now. There's enough real fear out there that nobody needs to hear from you about more fear. Have a positive, loving message today.
And another like marketing objective when it comes to timely content is that it's actually, I don't want to use the word force.
Mhm.
It is creating a way for businesses to think more outside of the box than they ever have before. And as a person who is a creative, like I have a design background, and with that, I've been thinking outside of the box for years because that's just who I am. And but the way that I'm seeing more and more people use the creative side of their brain, I'm seeing all of these beautiful things come up. People are sketching all these different games, and there's all these different things that if you Google like this or that, it's a very similar game. We actually play it at all of our brunches because it's a great way to create an icebreaker. It's an online icebreaker where you can have people post their this or that images, and you'll learn like simple things like coffee or tea, Facebook or Instagram, like similar things. And through that, you actually have a way to use those images to track your marketing data, and from that you'll know what your content should be based around, whether it should be around coffee posts or tea posts, or whether your platform is more on Facebook or on Instagram where people are. So there's these creative outlets of where you're actually being able to use to capture data in ways that were never used before.
True. Now, again, let's qualify this. To do that ethically, you're doing that in a controlled group, like say a private Diva group, and doing it for your
Yes.
users. Because when you start doing that online, this is how identity theft happens. And I laugh because, you know, people are they're like, oh, I would never give any of my information, personal information to someone, but oh my God, yeah, okay, I want to know what dog I look like and you need to know everything about me first. Sure, I'll do that. So it's just funny because you're right. There's really creative ways to get the data we need to do more effective marketing to our client avatars. The difference between doing it ethically and unethically is what we just discussed. To
Yes.
An existing client base to make sure we're on track, or a closed, cold group that we're going to approach is one thing. But, you know, I see a lot of posts going around right now on Facebook, and people are like, hey, let's take a break from COVID and answer these 20 questions. I'm like, please don't, because that's how people are going to get their identity stolen. And in the midst of everything else going on, you really don't need to deal with that too.
No,
No,
especially not. So that's why I'm saying, like, for an online community
absolutely.
where it's something absolutely controlled, that is a great activity that you can do that will engage your customers, but it'll also at the same time allow you to capture data in a way that you never thought before.
100% agreed. Yeah, 100% agreed. Just wanted to qualify the
Yeah,
closed
no,
community part.
I absolutely understand.
And you are right though. I mean, I've got a two-part challenge with our clients right now, because again, some of them are on one side, some are on the other, some are in this middle area. So here's the challenge, and for anyone watching, and even for yourself, Caryn, I'm sure you would have no problem with this challenge, but here's the challenge. The first point of the challenge is accept in your mind, mindset wise, accept that this is the new norm.
Yep.
Right? Because a lot of the things that are happening aren't going to go away. I mean, they're putting up plexiglass protecting screens for checkout lines in grocery stores. That's a huge expense that they're doing to protect their workers. Do you really think once we get through this, they're going to go to the expense of taking that all down?
No.
Of course not. That's going to become part of the new way of doing things. So part one of the challenge is accept that for the most part, this is the new norm. Okay. The second part then is now that you've accepted that, and it's exactly what you said, pie in the sky, no rules, be creative. And what are the ideas you could do to create that sustainable business model we talked about? What could you do? And the first round of that, it doesn't matter if it's legal, it doesn't matter if it's feasible, it's simply ideas. right? And it's just getting them out there. Like, how can a plumber, for example, still do his job when people don't want him in his house? Well, you know, what if you got some of that augmented reality, the VR stuff that they're doing? I think Microsoft has one that's really advanced. So basically you would wear one, the client could pick one up, you drop it off at the door, you're sitting in your van, and you basically walk them through the process themselves. Is
Yeah,
it feasible? Maybe. Can you charge for it? Maybe. I don't know. But it's about generating ideas until something sticks and goes, oh, that's what we're going to do next. And
absolutely.
yeah, and if it goes back to normal, great. But there's still be maybe times when these things can now become a part of your ongoing business model. So again, it's not about sitting back on that side of things and saying, okay, this is going to pass, and also not the other side of things and saying, spend everything now so that we have 6 months of supplies. There has to be a balance somewhere.
Yes.
Now, earlier you talked about, and this is a fun point to discuss, and I love that you and I can have these conversations. You mentioned things like marketers and branders. Of course, they need to be of service to people right now and help businesses get through this time. We offer full performance-based marketing and branding services for our retainer clients. So here comes a fine line, and this is a fun topic. What are your views on people monetizing those types of services during a crisis like this?
Okay. I want to make sure that I word this properly
I
so
know
that
it's a
I
sensitive
don't
topic. I
so
know.
that I don't offend anybody.
I'll offend people.
Well, no offense. If you weren't already a digital marketer or digital brander or an expert, do not just jump in and expect that everybody is going to come to you and want to buy from you.
Right.
Because, no offense, you don't have any credibility to back you up.
Right.
So I see a lot of people all of a sudden creating businesses on the side online. And it's great. I get it. Everybody wants to thrive during this time because this may be the new norm.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure. However, what you may be doing is not necessarily going to benefit someone. It could actually put someone's business 10 steps backwards from where they were. So this is why I'm saying listen, for all the business owners who will be listening or who are listening, to make sure that you're doing your homework when you're looking for a digital marketer or a digital brander or a business coach or someone to help you during this time. You got to look at their credentials and make sure that they're an amazing, credible source, like our business coach, Colin's Break.
Yeah.
Excellent resource to go to during this time. With that, you don't want to necessarily go to, I know we all want to support like our best friends and our family during this time, and I completely get that. But at the same time, friendship and business are two different things.
Okay.
And I support all of my friends who are in their businesses, and I do my best to do the best that I can to help them to get to where they want to be. But at the same time, if I don't think that it's something that's going to benefit me or my business, I don't do it.
Right. So, okay, so stay in your lane, basically, what you were good at before. I mean, now that's not to say you might not have other things you're good at that you could look into, but don't, out of a panic, start a side hustle because suddenly you need money. So you're going to go out and take advantage of others, even if that's not your intention.
Yes.
The end result. Now, let's look at this from a slightly different point of view. So some of the things you mentioned, like credible marketer, well, that's been our team. You know, we do marketing, branding, like I said, but our primary lane, if we're going to say that, is the remote project management, and that's really in demand right now. So you have someone like us that's you know offering a service that people really want. We're expensive. And right now, there's a lot of people that are like, well, my cash flow sucks. Can't you do it for free? Can't you defer? Well, and you laugh, but some people would think that I should, that our team should, that we should be there to contribute to that global community, or we're hypocritical. We're hypocritical because we're not willing to roll up our sleeves and give to help others succeed. So what is your opinion on that? Like, you know, should there be cost reduction? Should people be deferring, like, you know, a lot of bigger businesses are the utility companies deferring payments, and Adobe is giving away 60 days free of Creative Suite and things like that.
You
Where,
just tapped into that just
okay,
by what you just said. So the big companies, if they can, they're deferring. And you know what? God bless them for doing it because they can.
right,
For companies like Adobe, you just said it. They're giving a 60-day free trial.
right,
So for companies that are more expensive, you give them a free trial. And then once they see the benefit of that service, they are more likely to buy than to unsubscribe. And we did the same thing with DivaGirl last year. We had meetups all over the GTA. We would go to different areas. We would have one directly in Toronto, but then we would go to places like Vaughan, Markham, Mississauga, Etobicoke. And with that, we were able to reach women who would say, well, I don't know what DivaGirl is all about, but at the same time, it's too far for me to come to Toronto. So we would host a smaller live event in their area, like a meetup, so that it would be very casual. They could come out, they interact, they get a trial of what our community is like, both online and live.
right.
And from there, each time we had a successful, I'm going to say, a 30% conversion of new members just from those events alone.
Right.
So
Okay.
that is something that people can do online. If they have a business that has a very, as you said, expensive product or service, is that you could offer to try it out online. And then say you'll give them a 7-day trial of that product afterwards. And from that, then you'll see the people who are most likely to stay with you and the people who will fall off and realize that it's not for them. However, if you had just done it up front and charged at that rate, a lot of people would most likely not buy or buy at all.
Right. And I mean, doing the trials for some businesses makes sense. And the amount of data, again, it comes back to data, the amount of data you can get in mind to see, okay, is this on track with who I thought our client avatar was, or is our client avatar actually somebody entirely different than what we thought? So yeah, that makes a lot of sense from that point of view. Really, at the end of the day, what you're talking about is it comes down to marketing. And it's funny how marketing can play out. I want to give an amazing example. I'm not going to name the telecom companies, but there's one telecom company in Canada that stepped forward and said, hey, during this crisis, we are going to remove all data overage fees.
Yep.
And the world was like, wow, that's amazing. Well, not the world, but Canada was like, holy smokes, that's amazing, because they want to help us stay connected. So they know we're all at home. They know that not everybody has unlimited Wi-Fi or whatever. So they're removing data caps. Brilliant. Everyone expected the other telecoms to follow suit. So then the second big telecom comes out and they said, hey, we're actually going to donate 10 million to local charities to support food banks and COVID vaccine research and support hospital workers and everything else. And everybody was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I sat back for a minute and I ran numbers that you can find on like different, Stats Canada type websites. And that second telecom company did not say anything about removing data overages. So I ran some numbers for a 6-month period based on what the average household consumption is, and they stand to make $100 million in data overage fees. And yet they're going to donate 10 million towards good causes.
Yep.
And people celebrated them for that because they don't really see that they're the ones funding that and still leaving that company a $90 million revenue surplus.
Yes.
Whereas that first company, data overages being erased sounded great, but they're actually standing to lose, close to $70 million.
Yes, yes and no. Yes and
Right?
no. And so the first company that removed the data overages,
Yeah.
they are basically in a way doing it like how Adobe has done with the 60-day trial of Adobe Creative Suite.
Yeah.
So they've removed the data overages because eventually, when all of this is over, they're hoping that 50 to 60% of those people will see the value of having unlimited and will move to unlimited. And that's where they're going to recoup all the loss of them, well, the loss, as I'll call it,
Right.
from removing the data overages.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're creating brand loyalty, right?
Yes.
And we both know that the operating expenses for telecom is minimal, so they're not actually looking to lose 70 million.
No.
It's a on paper,
Right.
loss of $70 million, but in
So
essence, it'll be a lot less. And we know Canada's the most overbilled for data anyway.
yes. Yes, because I've traveled in the past year, well, actually in the past 3 years, I went to Southeast Asia and Europe. In Southeast Asia, their telecom services are very limited in comparison to what we have. So,
Mhm.
for example, I lived in a house with 12 other women. We were on a mission to help other women in the country. In the house that we stayed in, only 6 people at a time could be on the internet in order for it to work. So you would have people all of a sudden thinking that the internet was like a lottery. So, for example, every 2 days, I would be able to get on the internet and I would know my time is limited. So I made the most of it and then I came off. And with that, then I traveled to Europe where their telecom systems actually surpass ours.
Oh, by far. It's amazing.
So much that I decided to input a SIM card into my phone.
Yeah.
This SIM card cost 50 euros for the month that I was there. I had, what was it? 3,000 minutes.
Yeah.
And 20 gigs of data. On top of this, I also had a mobile hotspot that had 30 gigs of data on it. So it's those types of things to bear in mind. And then to come back here and, when you look at your bill and all of that, it's like, this is mind-boggling.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. My wife and I love travel, you know that. And we learned years ago, we unlocked our cell phones. And even with
Yep.
any of the big providers in Canada, you can pay them a one-time fee to unlock it and do it ethically. And when we travel, that's the first thing we do before we leave the airport. Grab a SIM card and away you go. And you never look back.
No.
And then you get back, like forget roaming packages and everything. They're just ridiculous.
Yes.
Couple of years ago, I actually did an RV trip across all of Canada, hit all the provinces and territories, did the whole thing in a matter of months. It was shocking how horrible cell service is in Canada.
Yes.
If you're basically more than 200, well, let's say kilometers, 300 kilometers from the southern border, and you're not in a built-up area, you have no connectivity whatsoever. It's insane. So yeah, I mean, that's a whole other topic, but back to the topic at hand, ways to ethically market yourself and still make a profit. So here's another idea. This is just fun. We're just putting out ideas now. So let's say membership. You have membership, we have membership. One of the ideas we've looked at doing is instead of pausing memberships and, you're saying to your members not to renew, et cetera, what we're doing instead is when it comes up, like we're thinking about pausing, and when it comes up for renewal, have them renew and then just for a full year and then put the extra amount of paused time on to the end of their year.
Okay.
So it
Yeah.
still is helping them out now in a cash flow crunch because we can, but we still want them to renew and continue forward and then give them that back at the end so that we actually can, not lose money on it in the long run.
Right.
So what are
And
your thoughts on an approach like that?
that is also another excellent approach to do if you can. So, for example, I go to a private personal training gym. And what they've done with my membership is they've done the exact same thing. They have put a pause on my membership right now. And then once you renew, they will put the paused time on the extension.
Right.
And I actually thought that was a brilliant idea. You also, they have other options if you would like to cancel, etc. But I thought that was an excellent idea. So I think it's a great idea that should be implemented if you can.
Right. Well, yeah, yes. So that's exciting. So thanks. Yeah. But that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, I think, is, being ethical and honest with one another. Even conversations like this. I mean, how often do you tune into stuff like this and people dig into the nitty gritty? And that's what I think we need. And that helps qualify people too, right away. Being able to hold a conversation like this intelligently, without getting upset if we have differing opinions on things. I mean, all of this is how we get through these types of situations in the best of times, not just in the worst of times, right?
Yes. So that also comes back to our conversation and back to the way how any other business owner should be conducting a Facebook Live, an Instagram Live, or a webinar such as this, is to keep it authentic. Because if it comes off that it's scripted and you've practiced it numerous times, people are not going to engage because they're just going to think kind of in a way that it's just a quote unquote commercial.
Right. Are you
And
saying we
that,
didn't practice this all morning?
no.
No, we did not.
With that, and no, I'm also not practicing the way how I'm shifting right now throughout this call either.
No, I get it. Well, and I mean, I'm not sure if you're wearing your work pajamas or your evening pajamas right now, but either way, I applaud them.
I'm wearing my work pajamas.
Okay, perfect.
And with my work pajamas, I keep it very inspirational. So I do my best every day to wear an inspirational piece of clothing.
Oh, I love that.
So today, my sweatshirt says, "Be yourself,"
I love
because
that.
as a business owner, it's all about authenticity. And the more that you be yourself, the more likely that people are going to buy with you.
Well, and let's even take that further than business. That's just
Yes.
how it is in life, right?
Yes.
Being you is really the best thing to do. And in fact, that's something else I've been talking about recently because there's a lot of people that are getting advice on mindset. And it's like, you know what? No, don't be afraid. Just push that aside and be positive and be happy and be uplifted. And then there's my approach that's like, well, no, be you. And if
Yes.
you're afraid, allow yourself to be afraid and figure out why and process it, or be angry or be sad. Just don't dwell in any emotion, but allow yourself to have that fullness of the human experience, right?
Yes. And that also goes to another tip that I have. You have an online community. That does not mean you need to be online every single day.
Right.
You can, if you are, and this goes back to when I was ill. I was not online all the time. My posts will lead you to believe that, but I wasn't live when those posts were going. Some days were better than others, and that's going to be the same thing for everyone. Some days you're going to have really good days where you're all like productive and you're ready to go and take charge and do everything. And then you're going to have days where all you want to do is lie on the couch and watch Netflix. And you know
Right.
what? What?
I said, right.
Yeah. And allow yourself to do that. Because if you try to force yourself, oh, wait, we don't use the word try.
We do not.
No, we don't. If you force yourself to do your work, then it's not going to be authentic. It's not going to be you. And actually, people will see it as forced or fake.
Right. Well, and that's to that end. I mean, that's, you know, people are talking about how do you set up work from home, how you work remotely and still stay on top of everything every single day. You just nailed a huge secret that people are always wanting to sell online for money. So we're about to put some people out of business, and I'm okay with that. We do the same thing. Like we don't even say, okay, well, the first Friday of every month, we're just going to set up all the lighting gear and camera gear and the microphones, and we're going to spend all day just doing social media content. We don't do it that way. We say sometime within the first week, when somebody on the team feels motivated, spend a few hours and do it, and then schedule it to drip out over the next month. So it happens, but it's not always, you know, a dedicated time, because to your point, we cannot force that. And that's just no good. Uh, Even this here, this daily support call that we're doing now, I mean, it started as something private for my members and it grew. And ironically, the first one we did publicly, suddenly nobody showed up, right? And we thought, okay, thanks everybody. And then, you know, the next day, a bunch more people showed up, and then a few didn't, and whatever, it's all over the place. But for now, we actually are going to do this every day. And honestly, I mean, part of it is because, yeah, I think the people that I'm having on, such as yourself and some of the other guests, and even the people that are with us as attendees, everybody has something to contribute to the conversation. Selfishly, though, it's giving me an amazing opportunity to take a break, because we have been really busy, reconnect with people that matter to me, such as you. And I mean, think about it. We just basically had a conversation, just us, for like almost an hour now. And it's been amazing catching up with you. So these are all things that you can leverage social media for. And if someone else happens to tune in and benefit from it, so be it. But this was just about me talking with my friend Caryn today.
And this was me talking with my friend Marcus today.
Right. So yeah. Okay. We're almost done. I'm not going to force it to an hour just because. So do you have any parting words that you would like to leave with people about our topics of today?
My parting words are, if you don't already have a community and you're looking to start one, start small. Invite your friends and your family to join and take it from there. Don't create a community expecting that overnight you're going to build it to 1,000 or 5,000. Just to give you some statistics, I have a community of over 12,000 around the world. That has been built in the last 10 years. Mostly my business partner, and then in the last 5 years with me added on. So with that, we have maintained this sense of community for a very long time, but it takes time to build. So don't expect anything to happen overnight.
That's wonderful news. I mean, same thing. I mean, we've been doing corporate client work now for about 8 years, which is a little different. But on the community building side, we've only really been at it for 3 years, and we've got a few hundred people at this point. And you know what? It's okay. There's a stat that I like to use, is that there is a lot of people are like, well, who's your client? And it's like, well, I can serve everybody. Everybody needs what I do. And I was like, really? There's 7 billion people on the planet. So if everybody became your customer, one, your business would just collapse inwardly.
Yeah.
So the stat I use is that if you had 500 dedicated clients, you would have more wealth than you could ever do anything with.
It's very true.
It is. And people don't realize that. They're all about that numbers game. They're all about that massive volume. And it's always looking at the one-time payout as opposed to nurturing ongoing relationships. So yeah, I mean, you even get up to 100 people or like whatever, like figure out what your critical mass is. And then when you get there, just keep sustaining that number, and it will grow on its own, just because people are going to be so amazed with what you're willing to give consistently to them. So
Correct.
I think that's a good way to end it today. So thank you so much again, Caryn. I really appreciate you making the time for us today. For those that did join, some people dropped in, some people dropped out. Thank you so much. And for the YouTube users, I'll put a link down below for how you can get in touch with us, how you can get in touch with Caryn. And yeah, just stay safe, stay home, and we'll talk again tomorrow.
Yes. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye for now.